Hey y'all, you know what time it is. Get into it, lovelies. Get into it. You know what time it is. We're back with Story Time with Chris. As I always say, you don't have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, max relax and chillaxing time, in between time, meme time, scheme time, story time, break time, CP time, anytime that you want to hear a highly animated voice bringing you wonderful stories of magic, fantasy, science fiction, adventure, and many, many more in between. So I know I missed Sunday, which I still owe you all 4 chapters of The Hobbit now, which that will be done. I promise you I will consistently do that and get back to Stuart Little because we still need to finish that. Other than that, I hope everybody's having a fabulous Monday. I am just hanging out. I'm loving my hair, the growth. Shout out to my stylist, Kafisala, because she is amazing. And I just love the fact that I have long hair, y'all. Like, it is a blessing. I love my dreadlocks, and yes, you heard me right. I refer to them as dreadlocks because I reclaim the term, because I don't consider them to be dreadful as certain Europeans used to refer to black people's hair in this particular style. I know there are some people who refer to them as locks and twists, and those are very valid, but I'm okay with, me specifically, because I can only speak for myself, I'm okay with referring to them as dreadlocks. I'm okay with that. So, I don't own the music that you are listening to in the background, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Get my glasses on. And we're back, and we're about to find out how karma and divine retribution and how the universe can humble you very quickly in this next chapter. Chapter 24. The Tale of the Bronze Bowl. Honorable Chief Magistrate, official of the first rank Fat Choi, admired himself as a personage of refined taste and delicate sensibilities. He wore robes of exquisite materials, richly embroidered. If he judged his meals to be less than perfect, he flung the dishes to the floor and ordered his cook beaten to perfection. His chambers were filled with superb antiques, pieces of jade, porcelain, gold, and silver, and he always sought to add rare items to his collection. When a bronze bowl was presented as evidence in a case of theft, Honorable Fat Choi's eyes popped and his fingers itched. To one of less perception, it would have seemed a common object. Honorable Fat Choi, however, saw its subtle decorations, graceful proportions, and excellent craftsmanship. He was more than a little vexed that Honorable Prosecutor Chiang To had seen it first. The conceited fellow thought himself also a connoisseur. Fat Choi thought him a fool. "Had it been me," Fat Choi muttered, "I'd have simply taken it away from the beggar who was holding it. The wretch wouldn't have dared to complain, or given him a few coins and said no more. But no, this idiot makes a court case of the matter. Now the thing turns out to be royal property. By law, it must be sent back to the Celestial Palace." And I'm just going to let you take a wild guess as to whether or not he's actually going to send it back. Fat Choi pondered the situation and soon found an answer. "True, the law requires me to return the bowl. On the other hand, it does not specify how quickly this must be done. That leaves it to the discretion, honesty, and efficiency of the Chief Magistrate, who, fortunately, is myself. A heavy responsibility, but I am capable of bearing it." Fat Choi therefore ordered the bowl placed in his chambers along with his other prized possessions. Honorable Prosecutor Chiang To referred to raise a question. "Most worthy and excellent Chief Magistrate, since the bowl figured as evidence in a criminal trial, until it can be sent back to its rightful owner, in my considered opinion, it should remain in custody of the Department of Legal Technicalities, of which you, most admirably diligent Honorable Prosecutor, are the head," replied Fat Choi. "However, since the case has been judged and closed, the bowl comes under the purview of the Department of Vigilant Administration." "Of which you, Honorable Fat Choi, are the head," answered the prosecutor. "Correct," replied Fat Choi. "And may I point out your superior in rank? In my considered opinion, the times are too unsettled to return the bowl immediately. Harm must come to it in transport over bandit-infested roads. What safer place for the moment than my private chambers, where I might constantly keep an eye on it?" Honorable Chiang To could only bow agreement. Fat Choi waddled off to his quarters. He had that day ordered an old beggar whipped out of town, condemned a thieving impostor to the collar of punishment, imprisoned half a dozen rogues to prevent them from committing offenses they might have contemplated in the future, and decided in favor of litigants who had impressed him with their righteousness of their purses and their generosity in sharing the contents with him. He was altogether fatigued by dispensing so much justice. He enjoyed a delicious dinner, allowed a servant to anoint him with fragrant essence of rose petals, and spent the rest of the evening fondling his collection of treasures. He set the bowl in a place of honor on a teakwood stand. The more he studied his new acquisition, the more he admired it, and the more he congratulated himself on his dealing with Honorable Chiang To. "What a distasteful example of greed," Fat Choi said. "He had the notion of dishonesty, keeping it for himself. Well, here it is, here it stays. Sooner or later, one of these years, I shall return it, if I remember to do so." Fat Choi went happily to sleep. Next morning, like a child with a new toy, he hurried over to inspect his latest item in his collection. He had to look 3 times before he believed his eyes. The bowl held a gold coin. "Well, well, well," said Fat Choi, picking up the coin. He squinted at it, rubbed it between his fingers, bit it, wrapped it on the tabletop. It was genuine, of purest gold. "I don't remember dropping this into the bowl last night, yet so I must have done without thinking about it." Fat Choi slipped the coin into the purse at his belt and went about his daily duties. That evening, returning to his chambers, he went to admire the bowl again. 2 gold coins lay in the bottom. Fat Choi rubbed his jowls and blinked his eyes. This time he was sure he had not absentmindedly dropped money into the bowl. "Ah, now I understand," he said. "My servants found these on the floor while cleaning my room. Yes, I must have dropped the coins. They rolled into some corner. My servants discovered them and put them where I would be sure to see." Satisfied by his analysis, he attacked his dinner with a keen appetite and went to sleep. In the morning, the bowl held 4 coins. This bewildered Fat Choi made him a little uneasy. Someone must have come into his chamber while he slept. Again he turned his mind to solving the mystery, which now seemed a highly profitable one. "Of course," he finally said to himself, "now it becomes clear. Someone, plaintiff or defendant, has a case coming up for judgment. These coins are tokens of his respect and goodwill. They indicate justice is on his side. In the course of time, this righteous individual will make himself known. Meanwhile, he has asked one of my servants to bestow this money on me discreetly." To prove this, he called in his servants. All replied they knew nothing of such a petitioner. Fat Choi sent them away and went back to unraveling the mystery. "Simple explanation," he said. "They are lying. All in a good cause, I forgive them. This unknown personage has ordered them to keep the matter secret. All will be revealed in proper time." That evening, when Fat Choi returned to his chambers, he saw the bowl held 8 coins. "Now, at last, I understand," he cried in delight. "At first I thought it would be some litigant or favor seeker, but they would be bolder and blunter and take up the matter with me directly. No, this is a graceful, elegant, feminine way of going at things. Yes, a lady is involved," he went on, preening himself. "A lady of wealth, beauty, surely. To go with it, she has observed me about town or in the hall of sublime justice and has quite lost her heart. She wishes naturally to remain unknown for a while to see what I shall do. Perhaps it is a little humorous game to find out if I can discover who she is. That might be difficult, for there must be countless rich and beautiful ladies filled with tender emotions for me." Next morning, the bowl had 16 gold coins. Fat Choi hugged himself gleefully. "Ah, flirtatious minx! How she must enjoy the riddle she sends me." If this is a little game, he continued, two can play at it. I've already established that someone is tiptoeing in during the night, a servant or perhaps the lady herself who has bribed her way into the yamen. Very well, I shall go to bed as usual, but only pretend to be sleeping. At the sound of someone entering, I shall spring up and surprise whoever it is. Despite his efforts, he could not keep himself awake at night. When he opened his eyes, he saw 32 gold coins in the bowl. How did she do it? He cried, to creep in so quietly with never a sound. The following night, Fat Choi bolted his door, thinking this might cause the unknown admirer to change her method and make herself known. Next morning, he found 64 gold coins. The following days, each time Fat Choi left his chambers, he returned to find double the previous amount. He tried sitting up all night watching the bowl. However, when he glanced away for a moment, still more coins had appeared when he looked back. Finally, I understand, he joyfully exclaimed. What I didn't realize it from the beginning. This fortune is no gift from favor seeker or admirer. Celestial providence is showering me with gold. I reward for my honesty and diligence. Honesty and diligence, huh? You already know what that means, kids. For my generosity and nobility of spirit, for my wise dispensation of justice. Yes, I have read tales of kindly spirits rewarding mortals worthy of such benevolence, and who could be worthier than I? I never believed those tales, but here is proof. Excuse me. With the amount continually doubling, the gold coin soon overflowed the capacity of the bowl, covering the table and spilled onto the floor. Fat Choi piled the coins into his cabinet, locked the bowl there as well. But the cabinet itself became filled. Fat Choi began wondering where else he could store this multiplying treasure. No telling when it will stop, he said to himself. Perhaps it never will. Indeed, why shouldn't? He needed no abacus to calculate he would shortly become rich beyond imagination. And kids, let me explain something. So this is a toy I had as a kid. A lot of kids growing up when I was a kid had an abacus. So basically, it's a wooden object that has like about 4 or 5 tiers of wooden circlets or planks. And what you use it for is basically it's like a wooden calculator. So you move down however you need to add, and then you can figure out the sums or the division or the multiplication of what you may need. And it was a little wooden toy, and you could slide them down for how many you need to figure out the problem. So basically, like I said, it was like a wooden calculator. That's honestly the most layman term I can give it. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments respectfully below for those who also have more information on an abacus. Which I think they should still, I'm hoping they still make those for kids, because it definitely helped me over time. Plus it was a fun toy to have as a kid. I just had to take a pause for that. Oh, get my glasses. He needed no abacus to calculate he would surely become rich beyond imagination. His head spun at the prospect of dozens of gorgeous carriages and teams of horses and thousands of new robes. Luxurious furnishings, priceless objects of art, residences to house them all, as well as gardens, orchards, pavilions. Each day he could hardly wait to return to his chambers and peep into the overflowing cabinet. At this time they arrived in Chaisang, Honorable Inspector General Sol Sang. It was the duty of his high official to examine account books and ledgers, to conduct investigations, perform inventories, and verify all expenses connected with the yamens throughout the kingdom. Fat Choi was too preoccupied with counting his growing treasure to give more than briefly formal welcome to this visiting official and pay no heed to his doings. Later, when Fat Choi opened his chamber door to insistent knocking, he saw Inspector General So Sang in company with Honorable Prosecutor Chiang To.
Forgive this intrusion, Honorable Chief Magistrate,
said the Inspector General as this impatient Fat Choi ushered them in.
But a question has arisen in regard to certain accounts and inventories.
It is your worthy function to deal with that, replied Fat Choi. I am concerned with duties more important than counting bushels of rice and adding up kitchen expenses.
It is a little more serious than that, the Inspector General said. As required, I personally examined the strong room where reserves of currency are kept.
Excellent, said Fat Joy. I am happy to know that you are carrying out your duties so meticulously. Now, if you will excuse me.
Honorable Fat Joy, said the Inspector General, I discovered something highly troubling, in fact disastrous. Every sack of gold coins stored there is empty.
What? Cried Fat Joy. How could that be? Quite impossible. Honorable Soul Sang, you must get to the bottom of this incredible situation immediately.
As I've been doing,
replied Soul Sang.
It is obviously the work of a most audacious robber, one within the yamen itself. No other could have had access to the strong room.
Of course it is, replied Fat Joy. Every servant, every official from lowest to highest must be closely questioned. He glanced sharply at Chiang To, including the honorable prosecutor himself.
I am happy that you agree, said the Inspector General. I have already conducted such an investigation to no avail.
Then probe deeper, said Fat Joy. I urge you to do so without delay.
Your encouragement is commendable, said the Inspector General. That is exactly why I've come to you. So far, all officials, including the Honorable Prosecutor, have allowed me to search their chambers. I have no doubt that you, Honorable Chief Magistrate, will do likewise, purely as a gesture of good faith and token of enthusiastic cooperation.
The sooner we begin,
So Sang went on, the sooner this inconvenient formality will be ended. Shall we, then, start with, let us say, with your cabinet, a handsome piece of furniture, I hasten to add. I offer compliments on your taste.
But this is unseemly. It impugns my dignity. It is outrageous. Fat Joy had broken into a cold sweat. He scowled and glared with as bold a face as he could put on. He blustered, protested, and finally, folding his arms, refused to submit to such humiliation.
In that case, replied the Inspector General, I must take other measures.
He clapped his hands, and a number of clerks and scribes entered. At his bidding, while Fat Joy gasped and sputtered, they broke open the cabinet. Coins flooded out in a golden stream. Fat Joy collapsed on a chair. The Inspector General turned a severe eye on the Chief Magistrate.
With utmost courtesy, allow me to inquire how you came by such bounty.
Gifts, cried Fat Joy. Gifts from kindly spirits. The Inspector General and the Honorable Prosecutor exchanged glances. The clerks and scribes set about counting the coins. When they finished, the sum tallied exactly with the amount of missing treasure.
Honorable Chief Magistrate, official of the first rank Fat Joy, said Prosecutor Chiang To, smiling blissfully, it is my painful duty to place you under arrest.
And children, that is a primary example of karma biting you in the tail. Because let me tell you something. When you do wrong by people, when you mistrust people and abuse their kindness, the universe will punish you 10 times over. Okay? It's not okay to do wrong to people and try to disguise it as benevolence and justice. Because that's not what real justice is. Understand? Fat Joy thereupon was put under guard and hustled into the Hall of Sublime Justice. He was forced to kneel before his own desk in his own chair, occupied now by the Inspector General, legally empowered to sit as judge in such extreme cases. The bowl, blurted Fat Joy when permitted to speak in his defense. The kindly spirits put coins into it each day. The bowl filled more and more with gold. I had nothing whatever to do with it. Prove it for yourself. Take the bowl, put it in your chamber, go to sleep and see what holds next morning.
The bowl in question, said the Inspector General, an item of royal property which should have been immediately returned to the Celestial Palace, was in your custody. It cannot be found. This is yet another breach of your responsibilities.
God! Burst out Fat Joy. The kindly spirits have taken it away!
My reply, said the Honorable Prosecutor, is a simple one. Never in all my career have I heard such a pitiful and ridiculous explanation, and the most barefaced, preposterous lie that any irate criminal has ever invented. Even more preposterous than the thief who recently claimed to be the young Lord Prince. I have heard enough, said the Inspector General. Under the law I have authority to condemn you to death, but the law is merciful as well as just. I must take into account the fact that every coin has been retrieved. The bowl alone is missing, but I charitably presume it will eventually be found. Also, I must consider that you are, or were, a colleague, and professional courtesy is certain obligations. Therefore, I pronounce a compassionate and lenient sentence upon you."
Accordingly, Fat Choi was stripped of his rank, his position, and his belongings, including his collection of antiques, and was flung out the gates of his former yamen. All his rich garments had been forfeited, but he was permitted to keep one cotton undershirt. Fat Choi, reduced to being a beggar, proved a most unpopular one. He constantly whined, moaned, and ranted about his former wealth and his cruel betrayal by malicious spirits. Some good-hearted soul had given him an earthen pot as a begging bowl, but he seldom filled it, for passers-by paid him little heed and for the most part brushed him aside. As for the bronze bowl, a thorough search of the yamen failed to discover it. As far as he could be determined, it had vanished beyond recovery and the case was closed. One morning, however, an old beggar hobbled to a riverbank near Chaisang. Amid the reeds and cattails, he glimpsed an object half sunk in the mud.
"Ah, so there you are,"
said Master Chu. He bent and picked up the bronze bowl, examined it carefully, and nodded with satisfaction. Then, clutching his find, he tottered off as quickly as his frail legs could carry him. Leaving the miserable Fat Choi in the streets of Chaisang and Master Chu holding the last of Jin's gifts, we now return to Jin himself and what happens to him in the next chapter. And that is where we will end for today. I thank you all so very much for coming to watch Storytime with Chris. Like I always say, you don't have to watch these stories when they go live. I love each and every one of you, and I hope you have a magical day. Yes. Okay, Jordan, I'm off Wednesday, but I will be able to stop by, so just text me. That's awesome. Yay! I'll be there. Just text me, okay? But as always, y'all, I'll see you next time, okay? Bye-bye.